Hello, my name is Greg, and today I'd like to walk you through 6 questions from latest aero exams seen in the last 60 days across all authorities. Topic for today is air operations. Question number 1. During an IFR flight in controlled airspace, if the pilot encounters engine vibration from one engine, which transponder squawk code should the pilot choose? Squawk 7700, 7600, 7400, or 7500. Alright, so depending on the contingency situation that we encountered, there are 4 transponder mode alpha codes that we can use. 7500 for unlawful interference, 7600 for radio failure, and 7700 to indicate the state of emergency. The new EASA standardized European rules of the air brought a 4th code, the 7601. This mode alpha code also indicates a radio failure, but is dedicated for an IFR flight that encountered visual meteorological conditions, and pilot in command, instead of continuing according to a flight plan, decided to continue to fly in the VMC and to land at the nearest suitable airport. Now, coming back to the question, the engine vibration is a signal that something is wrong and there might be an impending failure. If the vibrations are severe and followed by abnormal engine indications like, for example, low oil pressure, high oil temperature, or high exhaust gas temperature, it is a valid reason to declare an emergency. So the correct answer will be squawk 7700, answer number 1. And this is the correct one. Question number 2. If a TCAS resolution advisory requires an immediate descent while at the same time ATC requests an immediate climb, the crew should start the climb first and then follow the TCAS array, follow the TCAS array and inform the ATC, consider both requests and remain at the same level, comply with the ATC request. TCAS, Traffic Collision Avoidance System, informs us of the position of traffic in our vicinity, and in case of conflicting traffic, issues alerts. There are 2 types of them. The first one is TA, the Traffic Advisory. The TA is issued if there is a potentially conflicting traffic and it is based on predicted time to the so-called closest point of approach. In case of TA, although pilots shall not take any actions. Now, RA, the Resolution Advisory, is issued when the conflicting traffic is within 15 to 35 seconds of closest point of approach. The difference between TA and RA is that in RA, TCAS commands avoidance maneuvers in a vertical plane, and these commands have to be followed by the pilots without any delay. Remember that all TCAS resolution advisories have a precedence over ATC instructions given. Another very important item is to inform ATC about RA, and you have to do it as soon as workload permits. This is the only way that ATC will know that TCAS has issued RA. So the correct answer will be answer number 2. The crew have to follow the TCAS RA and inform the ATC. And the answer number 2 is correct. Question number 3. The intermediate approach segment is the segment during which the aircraft, speed and configuration should be adjusted to prepare the aircraft for final approach, is configured and makes the alignment for landing, leaves the en route segment and starts the approach segment, makes the alignment and descent for landing. Okay, so an in-route approach may have 5 segments: arrival, initial, intermediate, final, and missed approach segment. Usually, each segment starts and ends with a fix. However, sometimes the segment might begin at specific points without fixes. For example, final approach segment of a precision approach can begin where the intermediate segment's altitude intersects nominal glide path, which is called the final approach point. Or, in case of non-precision approach, if a final approach fix is not specified, the final approach segment begins upon intercepting the final approach track. Also, keep in mind that not all segments have to be included in the approach procedure. Now, let's go briefly through each segment one by one. So, the first one, arrival, is a transition from the en route phase to the approach phase, and it ends at the initial approach fix. The initial approach is a segment where an aircraft is maneuvering to enter the intermediate segment at the intermediate fix. In the intermediate approach, an aircraft's speed and configuration should be adjusted to prepare the aircraft for final approach. To enable that, the designed descent gradient is kept as shallow as possible. However, to achieve an efficient descent profile, it might be flown as a continuous descent. The next one will be the final approach segment that starts at the final approach fix, final approach point, or final approach track, whatever is applicable. And in this segment, an alignment and final descent for landing are made. Now, the last segment is a misapproach, which begins at the misapproach point and ends at the specified by the procedure point or altitude. Also, each instrument approach has only one missed approach procedure, and is designed to provide obstacle clearance throughout missed approach maneuvering. So, as we now see, the correct is answer number 1. The intermediate segment is a segment during which the aircraft speed and configuration should be adjusted to prepare the aircraft for final approach. And the answer number 1 is correct. So, question number 4. According to ICAO Doc 8168 provisions on approach procedures, different aircraft categories are established considering the airspace and visibility required to maneuver the aircraft. On what basis are these categories established? Weather conditions, altitude and temperature are the main performance factors. Aircraft performance, speed is the main performance factor. Weather conditions, cloud-based is the main performance factor. Or aircraft performance, mass is the main performance factor. In the instrument approach, the factor that have an impact on the choice of the published minimas is aircraft performance, and to be more precise, aircraft speed. Now, the criterion for the categorization of aircraft performance is the aircraft indicated airspeed at threshold, V8. This speed is determined based on 1.3 times stall speed in landing configuration, VSO, or 1.23 times stall speed, VS1G, at maximum certificated landing mass. Now we have 5 categories for aircraft from Alpha to Echo, and there is also the 6th one, Hotel, for helicopters. Category Alpha belongs to aircraft which V8 is below 91 knots. Category Bravo is V8 from 91 knots to 120 knots. Category Charlie from 121 knots to 140. Category Delta from 141 to 165 knots. And category Echo from 166 knots to 210 knots. So the correct answer is answer number 2. Aircraft performance, speed is the main performance factor. And this is also correct. Question number 5. When the transponder is unserviceable before departure, the pilot will not be allowed to commence the flight. Pilot has to inform ATS and indicate the unserviceable equipment in the flight plan. Flight will only be allowed to continue via direct routing to the destination. Pilot will only be allowed to proceed to the nearest suitable airport where repair can be carried out if equipped with a CPDLC, Controller Pilot Data Link Communications. Okay, so in case of transponder failure before flight, first of all, we have to inform ATS as soon as possible. Another important step is to include in a flight plan the letter N as item 10, which stands for complete unserviceability of the transponder. We have to also check the airspace and the procedures that are going to be followed, and if any of these have a requirement to carry a functioning transponder, the exemption from these requirements have to be requested from the ATC. The ATS authority may also require to plan a flight as directly as possible to the nearest suitable airdrome where repair can be carried out. But be careful. It doesn't mean that the flight will only be allowed to continue via a direct routing to the destination, nor CPDLC is mandatory in those cases. Therefore, answers 3 and 4 are incorrect. And the correct one is answer number 2. The pilot has to inform ATS and indicate the unserviceable equipment in the flight plan. And answer number 2 is correct. Let's move to the last 6 question. An aircraft is executing an approach on runway 22, followed by a visual maneuvering, circling, on runway 04. During the base leg, the crew loses visual references with runway 04. What is the correct course of action? Fly towards runway 04 and initiate the missed approach for runway 04. Fly toward runway 22 and initiate the missed approach for runway 22. Continue until the minimums and initiate missed approach if visual references are not recovered. Fly toward runway 04 and initiate the missed approach for runway 22. Alright, so the circling approach or visual maneuvering is part of instrument approach where we start maneuvering to land on a runway which is not suitably located for a straight-in approach. After initial visual contact, the runway environment should be kept in sight and the aircraft has to be maneuvered at or above MDA or MDH prescribed for the circling. We can start our descent below MDA only if we are sure that the visual references can be maintained, the pilot has the landing threshold in sight, the required obstacle clearance can be maintained, and the aircraft is in a position to carry out a landing using normal rates of descent and angles of bank. In case of losing the visual references, the missed approach specified for the instrument approach that we were followed has to be initiated without delay. The transition from visual maneuvering consists of climbing turn towards the landing runway in order to return to the circling altitude or higher, followed by interception of the missed approach procedure. In practice, it means that if we perform, let's say, ILS approach for runway 22, followed by circle to land on runway 04, in case of losing visual contact with the runway, we have to follow missed approach procedure prescribed for ILS runway 22. So the correct answer will be answer number 4. Fly towards runway 04 and initiate the missed approach for runway 22. And this is also a correct answer. Alright, thank you very much for today. I hope you enjoyed and see you next time.